Good morning, everybody. Welcome. On behalf of Annassa, the angelic spirit guides, I welcome you. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you this morning. So let's begin with meditation. And we'll use the new mantra, I am in perfect union. And we say this mantra between the breaths because it takes us into the space which is beyond love, peace, joy, and gratitude. This is the space of bliss or ecstasy, the space of the union between the in-breath and the out-breath that takes us to where we came from and where we will eventually return. So today we're just going to work in the heart center because heart-centered awareness is what will carry us through this next period, where there will be major attempts at increasing the polarization in our country and emotional manipulation, depending on which side of the polarity you identify with. There will be a lot of information to get us excited in one way or another. So with heart-centered awareness, we can center ourselves in the space right between the two poles of emotional experience and try to hold some sanity within our own environment. So take your attention inside to your heart center, right in the middle of your chest, and breathe into that space. I am in perfect union, and feel for that union throughout your entire being. And continue repeating this mantra. It's a way of centering your mind and your awareness and keep bringing your attention to your heart center. So you keep focusing your breath right in the center of your chest. I am in perfect union. And we'll just continue this practice for a few minutes. And remember, this is a 4-part breath. So you inhale, feel for the space and say the mantra. Exhale, feel for the space. I am in perfect union. And after a while, the breath will begin to breathe you, and you will be saying the mantra into this space. If your mind starts to wander, just bring it back to your heart center. Inhale, I am in perfect union. Exhale, I am in perfect union. And feel into what that means. It's a feeling experience, not a thinking experience. Again, if your mind starts to wander, bring your attention back to your heart center. Inhale, I am in perfect union. Exhale, I am in perfect union. When you're ready, gently bring your awareness back to the room, and we'll begin our conversation. So happy to be with you this morning. So we'd love to hear what you'd like to know about.
Struggling with family gatherings and boundaries in regard to COVID-19. I am hearing so much information that conflicts. I am trying to come to a firm stance about what is safe and what is not.
So the question is how to be with COVID expanding everywhere right now, and what are the guidelines for safety? And we'll say it like this. If you have any question in your mind that you're in any danger, put on a mask. If you're going to be with family and they're not family that you shelter in place with, put on a mask. It's the safe rather than sorry experience. Masks really do protect people. The statistics are pretty clear. So there's that. The other thing that's very, very reassuring is that the death rate is going down. The death rate is going down. So that means a couple of things. It means that the medical establishment is learning some tools that keep people from getting so sick that they die. They're learning tools to keep people alive. And so that's really a good thing. A lot has been learned. So then the question becomes why? Why is there so much media preying on fear rather than fact? So that's an interesting question. But the main thing is wear a mask, wash your hands, stay safe. You know, gatherings bigger than 10, ask questions. Be sure you're safe. And from all the predictions, it looks like it's going to be worse before it gets better. So be prepared for more lockdown. It's pretty likely it's going to happen in our country. It's happening in other places in the world that have different statistics than we do, that aren't quite as bad as ours. So that's our advice. And pay attention to who might be benefiting from keeping the country in fear. And why is it that our response has been so bad? Who benefits from that? We don't know the answers to these questions really because it's very complicated, but they're worth asking and looking into. And as we've said many times before, we don't make predictions because people have free will, which means they change their minds all the time. How may we serve further? We know we gave you more questions than answers. But there are some very reassuring facts that we will share with you. One of them is that the reason the population is so big right now on the earth is because the earth is in the midst of this, the human collective is in the midst of this transformation. The earth itself is also in the midst of this transformation from third dimensional reality to fifth dimensional reality, which we will say is from a matrix of belief based in fear and reward and punishment ideas into a world that is based in abundance and living in harmony, where these things are the motivating factors. And the reason that so many people have chosen to incarnate at this moment is because this is a very rare and wonderful experience. And it hasn't happened in our awareness in this place. And so to be part of it is a very special time. It's also, we have been born in interesting times. And this is both a blessing and a curse because there is a lot of unpredictability. And so the place to be in yourself in this time period is centered in your heart, so that you have compassion, first of all, for yourself, and secondly, for everybody that you are sharing your life with. And when you are in your heart, in this heart centered awareness, then the possibility that you will make the choices that will bring out the best in you and that will bring out the best in everyone around you, the possibility of that increases exponentially when you begin in heart-centered awareness. So the thing to focus on now is bringing out the best in yourself and the best in everyone you share your life with. And so if you answer any difficulty with that first thought, you can be pretty sure that you're doing the best you can in this time. How may we serve further? We hope that answered the question, which we've forgotten by now.
Question. If we visit the Annassa temple as a group and ask for healing of the earth as a group, is it any more effective than doing it as an individual?
Well, the answer is yes and yes. There's doing it is always, always, always helpful. And doing it as a group invokes a collective energy that can be greater than the sum of its parts, especially when everyone's focused attention is on the highest best. Then this is why we meditate in groups, is because the collective voice is stronger. And it also gives us more power in ourselves, because with everybody doing it, the energy is all going in the same direction. But this is not to say that it's not important and extremely valuable to do it every time you can think of to do it yourself for the entire human collective. Even if you don't have time to go to the Annassa temple, you can just use your thought. You think into your heart and you say, I wish the entire collective of humanity well. In this moment, that wish is so powerful. You can't imagine the power of that wish in a moment. And if we all just take a moment and say deeply inside your heart, I wish the entire human collective well. And you can feel it's like a bubble that just expands. And it just keeps going. And when you get that established with a rhythm in yourself, that you're wishing yourself well, this is the first thing. We have to include ourselves. And very, very often in spiritual practice, especially, we're taught that we come last. And if we're not loving ourselves, then how can we love anybody else, really? How can we even know what love is if we aren't first bringing it to ourselves? And so we really have to turn our attention inside. Feel that love before we offer it. Really feel it. Really feel I am love. I am loving myself with a capital S. And from there, this offering of well wishes, which is really love, peace, joy, gratitude, that which is beyond, this is our offering to the whole. And so we become that. We become that offering in every moment that we possibly can. So, in that way, the Annassa temple's not really necessary. What we use the Annassa temple for is when we can no longer communicate with somebody in our environment who we have exchanged some difficult energy, and so the communication has broken down. So we go to the Annassa temple to heal that communication. And we go as our highest selves to speak to the highest self of the other. And from that perspective, there is enormous support from angelic forces to begin to resolve the difficulties, the disharmonies that we have with others. So that is the place to take our disharmonies. We can wish the world well 100 times a day, and it will only help us and everybody else. It doesn't require a trip to the Annassa temple. Thank you so much. We love interacting with you. How may we serve further? We can feel your hearts expanding, and it gives us great joy to participate in this with you. So we're going to say a few words about negative emotions, anger, fear, sadness, disappointment. There's a tendency when we have these emotional experiences to feel a sense of failure or, feel less than because we experience negative emotions. And the truth is that it's really the opposite. It's our capacity to allow our negative feelings to be present that allows us to mature and ripen these negative feelings into what's hidden by them. For example, fear is keeping us from really expressing our passion. And when the fear has been present long enough, welcomed long enough, with enough intense allowing, and Ho'oponopono can dissolve our resistance to this fear and allow it to, as the resistance dissolves and we can really deeply experience the fear and we lose our fear of fear. And anyone who experiences fear regularly knows what I'm talking about. That fear of fear dissolves, and then our true passion can begin to express itself. And the more we do this, the less impact the fear has on our lives. Until we get to the point where we welcome the fear because we know its resolution is going to make us bigger and more. And so, this idea that feeling a negative emotion is a failure is the opposite of what the truth is. The truth is that welcoming grief. Grief resolves into love. Grief is love turned inside out. Right side out, inside out, they're the same. The amount of grief one experiences is equal to the amount of love shared. And when we understand that, the grief and the love become inseparable. And then eventually, there's just the love. And the love never dies. The love just is. Once shared, always available. The flip side of jealousy is gratitude. Jealousy is us wanting to be our fully expressed selves, but judging ourselves as less than next to someone else. When we fully embrace our jealousy, when we allow ourselves to just completely feel it, allow it to be what it is, identify it, without reducing ourselves in the process, we don't judge it. We welcome it. It is human experience. We are human, and we are not trying to be non-human. We are trying to be completely human in our evolution. And so there's a certain kind of grounding that happens as we begin to accept ourselves in our entirety as we are. We are already perfect. We're in the process of evolution, and that entire process is also perfect. And when we begin to accept that and experience that as our life, there is this calm, a calm that becomes available regardless of any storm raging outside of us. The calm is in the eye of the hurricane. There is complete peace and stillness available to us in every moment. And what keeps us from it is the self-rejection that we have learned from our matrix of belief. And our matrix of belief is all about reward and punishment and fear and all the shoulds and you haven'ts and therefore. And this is all totally irrelevant. What's really relevant to being a human being is to cultivate the experience of perfect union. Perfect union is a fifth dimensional experience. And it's as close as our breath. And once felt, never forgotten. So allow this crack to open up between your breaths into the experience of perfect union. And as you breathe into this 4-part breath, you are reaffirming your connection in perfect union every breath. And whatever arises is a part of this perfect union, to be completely welcomed, because whatever arises is the next step in our own personal evolution, whatever it is. We have designed this for ourselves before we came. When we understand that, then it's hard to complain because we agreed to it. And then there's a kind of irony that happens with everything that unfolds. I agreed to this. Oh, okay. But it's no longer so heavy. It's no longer as though we're shouldering an enormous burden in living our lives, because there is a kind of self-acceptance that arises, that as we welcome our experience, we start doing it with a smile, because there's a deeper understanding that we are in perfect union already, and that we need do nothing to earn it. You can't possibly earn it anyway, and nobody deserves it anyway. It's just here. And we breathe into it, we experience it. I am in perfect union. And the experience holds through the out breath. I am in perfect union. And it's still there through the in breath. And the cultivation of that brings us into magic, mystery, and miracle. How may we serve further?
How do we process all the energies going on at this time? The full moon, the energy of the election, the whatever other astrology is going on. There's just great change in the air.
So the question is, how do we process all this change that's happening, these powerful energies of the full moon, the election, Mercury retrograde, and a lot of other astrological kerfuffle at the moment. So the first thing we do, everything that's not mine, please leave. And we mean it. And we just let it all go. And we have no idea what we're letting go of, and that's fine. And when we feel about 20 pounds lighter, then we can stop. And then whatever's left, we invite it forward. Okay, what's still here? And whatever it is, we welcome it with everything we have because it's our life. It's our life's work to embrace whatever it is. And if we're lucky, it's happiness. And if we're lucky, it's not. Because whatever it is, we're going to bring it to happiness by completely loving it. And if we have trouble finding that love, you know, last week we talked about how you can get a stuffed animal and just hug it to yourself and love it. And this is the easiest way to feel love inside yourself. It's like really quick. You can do it with a pillow. Just pick it up and hug it. And suddenly you will be in the love. And of course, anybody who has an animal already knows this because they're loving us all the time, no matter what we do. And so that experience is findable. And once you find it, choose it. Love is always a choice. So is the cultivation of any other emotion. And so once we know we have a choice about these things, then we can choose our time. Okay, I feel the fear, but I don't have time to be with it now. Hello, fear. I have time in 2 hours, and then I will welcome you. And then you can go about your business. But then you darn well better sit down in 2 hours and welcome the fear because you made a negotiation and a good faith commitment. And in this way, we can live our lives in peace. We don't have to live our lives in torment. We hope that answers the question. How may we serve further? So we're going to talk a little bit about grounding and polarities because there's a lot of polarity happening right now with people getting very emotional. And what we're going to say is stay in the center because these polarities are largely emotional. They're not driven by logic. And so when we try to greet emotion with logic, we don't get very far. And then our frustration creates its own reaction in us, which can bring us down. It can spiral us down into some sort of negativity because we're not getting the logical conclusions that we want from our opinion, which seems to be based in fact, and it seems to have no power against fiction. So when we understand that the fiction is about manipulation, and it's about manipulation of emotion, not about manipulation of fact, then we know what the playing field is. It's really about manipulation, emotional manipulation, not about logic. And when we understand that, then we can take our own emotions in hand, welcome them as the resonance of some past frustration that was not resolved in us in a harmonious way. So we welcome that frustration, anger that has arisen from our reaction to the emotional manipulation of others, making the world appear even more chaotic and less comprehensible than it was before. And we welcome our reaction to that to be brought into harmony, because we understand that everything that arises in us arises to be loved into harmony. And so we focus on the love, and we focus on bringing out the best in ourselves. And that means sitting with the disharmony, whatever it is, and allowing it to have its way with us. As we do Ho'oponopono, we are not struggling with it. We are allowing it to be. And we come to understand that emotions overwhelm us when we try to bury them, and they accumulate and accumulate and accumulate as we push and push and push to hold them down. And that when we allow them, when we actually nurture them forward and allow them to be felt, to be greeted, to be welcomed into our experience, that we can nurture as we would the tiny child who first experienced them, or the adult who was heartbroken by them, or the adolescent who was confused by them. We welcome all of it to be nurtured into harmony. And as we nurture these feelings, allow ourselves to be feeling beings, then amazingly, our experience begins to shift into love, peace, happiness, gratitude, and we'll say even joy. And joy becomes a lived through experience that we're cultivating rather than a prayer that we're wishing for. And this happens by bringing ourselves into harmony and cultivating the highest best in us and the highest best in everybody else. So our question is always, am I bringing out the best in me? Am I bringing out the best in you? And if we begin our internal conversation with that dialogue, we have instantly raised everything out of the mud. How may we serve further? Quiet today. So yesterday felt like a new beginning. And so for each of you, we imagine you experienced that new beginning differently, but we'll call it out for the energy that was most representative of the day. And see if there's anything you want to talk about that.
What am I sorry for with negative emotions?
Oh, so this is probably a question about Ho'oponopono. And the I'm sorry part is the most confusing part until you understand it. The I'm sorry, first of all, is who you're saying it to. We're not apologizing to anything or anybody outside of us. So we are apologizing to our deepest, capital S, self, our highest self that is the ultimate driver of our experience. And our highest self is synonymous with divine matrix, ultimate reality, God, soul. These are all words for the same thing. And so, what we're apologizing for is that we're not in union for that moment because we're feeling something other than union with our highest self. So we know from our experience in meditation that that union is palpable and present. So we know it's there. And so Ho'oponopono is a way to greet whatever negativity appears, own it, welcome it, nurture it. Ho'oponopono is the most efficient nurturing we've found. If we find something more efficient, we'll let you know. But it takes us out of the personal and into a very intimate place within ourselves at the same time. By taking it out of the personal, we mean we take it out of our reactivity so that we're not saying, I'm sorry. From exactly a reactive place, but from a knowingness that part of our reaction to this feeling is a kind of self-rejection, because it's our matrix of belief that we're really healing as we embrace each of these emotions. And our matrix of belief is that we've done something wrong somewhere, or we wouldn't be feeling this. And so by saying I'm sorry to our deepest, highest self, we are asserting our dedication to perfect union. The entire Ho'oponopono is our dedication to perfect union. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. It is our self we are imploring, our self with a capital S, God within us, Goddess within us, our deepest, highest origin. We are seeking union. And it's an acknowledgement of the fact that everything in our human experience is temporary. We feel the union now. In 10 minutes, we can't find it. It's though it never existed. And this happens to everybody, regardless of their evolution. There is not a time that we know of in third dimensional reality where people cease to experience coming in and out of perfect union. So, understanding this and allowing it in us instead of expecting that, okay, I can feel the perfect union, so I'm there forever. That's how it feels when it's happening. But everything is impermanent. So, why are we always surprised? We're surprised on both sides. When we feel depressed, we feel that depression is permanent. We know it in ourselves. We're never going to feel any better. We've always felt this way. And this is eternally our experience. Well, if we look a little bit at our experience, we know that depression comes and goes. No matter who we are or what experience we have cultivated for how long, we still move through these experiences that we would wish to not welcome. But when we understand that this is what it is to be a human, and actually it's healthy. A healthy human being experiences almost every emotion there is within a 24 to 48-hour period. This is human experience. This is normal. Now, pathology is when you get stuck in any experience, and stuck is the right word for it. When you get stuck in any experience for a prolonged period of time, that means that you're not really present. Now, we wouldn't usually talk about being stuck in ecstasy as pathology, but it could be depending on your circumstance and your intention. So you see that the entire of human experience, and yes, we're making an infinity symbol. Usually we do it not very consciously, but the entirety of human experience is that we have available this emotional feedback system that's going on all the time. And when we learn to live in harmony with it and flow with it, then there is a certain point where the reactivity to it changes flavors. And this is when we recognize that being human and being in union can exist in the same moment, that despair and union don't need to be opposites. They are not opposites. Union is the field of being, and there is nothing in being that is not part of existence. There is nothing that is unwelcome in total being. And this is what oneness actually means, that all parts are welcome. So it's hard with human language, which is three-dimensional and linear, to give you the idea of oneness without separation, and the all parts are welcome in the same moment. because the vision is difficult because all the language points to either or. And it's not, it's a both and. It's an everything is here. And when you understand that there is no better and worse, there is only center, and in that center, all parts are welcome. From that center, we can be suicidally depressed and completely whole in the same moment. We can experience homicidal rage and complete oneness in the same moment, with the understanding that all parts are welcome. It's when we identify with the feeling as separate from the whole that there's a problem. And it's because we have called it a problem. In total being, waves of feeling are stimulated by inside us by the movements of the stars and the planets and the EMFs and the food we just ate and the pesticides and all the other chemicals. Everything that comes through us creates sensation. And we tend to identify with these sensations and react to them. When we are in the oneness of ourselves, those experiences don't stop happening, but the identification and the need to react gets less. We've enjoyed sharing this with you very much. How may we serve further?
I've been going up to the Columbia River to meditate. It feels similar to going to the Annassa temple. How is it best to approach this energy? How best to incorporate this into practice?
Well, first of all, being in nature is wonderful and very beneficial. There's so much to be learned from nature. Nature is our great teacher. From nature, we can feel into our interdependence with the earth. And we can feel the generosity and see and experience the generosity of everything around us growing, going through its cycles of birth and death, everything around us. And in experiencing that and breathing the freshness of the air and feeling at the river, the moisture in the air, the moisture in the river, the cycle of air evaporation cloud, rain, damp, everything, it's all there. And we can feel our participation in it. We are part of it. We are not at all separate. We have created the illusion of separation by our elaborate dwellings and our clothes and all the other things we do to make ourselves feel separate and superior. And yet that separation is all illusion. We are the same. We are of the earth. Everything that our body is made of is of the earth. And will someday return to the earth. And the earth just has this amazing cyclic experience. The earth is also evolving, and part of the motivation, the participation of our evolution is that because the earth, Mother Earth, is evolving, so are we. It's undeniable and unavoidable. The choice that we have is the pace at which we evolve in participation with this evolution that's happening around us. So being in nature is a way to really learn a lot about who we are, what we're made of, and what we're participating in. And grounding, actually being on the ground, which as it gets colder is a less and less palatable and really possible experience. But grounding is a really important thing for us to do, because feeling our connection to Mother Earth is very, very important for us in cultivating our unity with the earth and at the same time the all of the all that is. Because we're not, never have been, and never will be separate from any of it. But because we have these illusions of separation, and very often there's a very long time between when we last actually stepped on the earth in our bare feet, we have the illusion that we're not connected to Mother Earth. And so making that connection consciously is important every once in a while. So as you're discovering, the Annassa temple is everywhere. And it's a state of consciousness, going to the Annassa temple and inviting a loved one with whom we've had a disagreement. And it's a place for resolution of the things that we can't handle on our own, that we need angelic support for. So we would say, in terms of next steps of cultivation of experience, that the mantra, I am in perfect union, and saying this especially right now into the center of your chest, into your heart center, which will naturally cultivate heart-centered awareness that this is the step that's important in this moment. And allowing this open-heartedness to bring you to the answers to how can I bring out the best in me today? And how can I bring out the best in you today, in this moment? If you bring this to every moment of your participation in life, your life will become more and more fun to begin with, and more amazing as you participate more and more in cultivating the best in you, the best in me, the best in you, the best in me, nurturing everything into love, peace, joy, and gratitude, and discovering that the whole world is in the fifth dimension. Abundance is there for every single one of us. The earth is already doing it. We just need to learn to participate. And it is this interactive participation rather than the idea of dominance and submission that changes everything. Reward and punishment, it's all matrix of belief. It's not necessary, and it's not the way things have been made to be. Certainly not in their highest function. And we can discover it for ourselves, and we can share it with every person we meet. And we share according to who the person is and what their matrix of belief is. We don't impose our matrix of belief on other people until we know they're ready for it. We meet them where they are. We completely accept them where they are. Our goal is to change ourselves. And with the understanding that the only person who can change us is us, that means the only person who can change you is you. And the only person you can change is you. So out of respect to other people and their evolutionary process, we meet them where they are. Otherwise, we look like we have two heads. Or some other strange illusion. We become someone that they can't relate to because we have positioned ourselves as outside of their matrix of belief. So out of respect, we meet them where they are. We don't deny our understanding, but we don't impose it either. We gently do whatever seems like is possible. And if nothing is possible, keep it simple. Not every conversation has to be a deep meeting of our highest wish. We can still hold our highest wish and not talk about it, but just be nice. This is often the most we can do. with the people we interact with, especially the ones that we're related to that we have such huge disagreements with about politics and anything else. Just be nice. That's all that's really required. And then there's at least possibility for communication. And in the hot moments, if we deal with them carefully, we may be able to bring out the best in them. Certainly, we will be able to bring out the best in us. And that's really what we care about. And then from there, there's always hope. And there is the assurance that fifth dimensional reality is happening. It's in process. And so we can have a little bit of equanimity about that. And with the understanding that the love we have already experienced never dies, we can have some equanimity about that. It's always available, it's just up to us to choose it. Having felt it, it's always available. How may we serve further?
What happened yesterday that affected our experience?
Well, yesterday there was a big full moon. That's the logic behind the experience, the fact. And how that was experienced here was as a time of new beginning. That doesn't mean it was experienced by everyone in that way. It was just experienced that way here. And so there was some acknowledgement of that. We're quite sure that other people experienced it differently. And so, whatever your experience was, if there was anything out of the ordinary, you might just make a note of it. Because learning to correlate our experience with the movement of the stars and the planets is how astrology was discovered. We weren't born with astrological texts. They were experienced and written down. And so, as part of our discovery of our harmony in, with, and through nature, we can begin to see how maybe our experience isn't just happening in a vacuum, that it's actually influenced by forces that are unseen. They're not forces that are well, we'll just say unseen, because unless you know astrology, then, there's no method to what we experience. But astrology is a way of bringing light to our experience in such a way that we begin to understand that it's not all in a vacuum just happening to us. But there's a bigger picture out there that there are waves of experience that stimulate certain patterns in us at certain times that cause us to participate in ways that we might not be familiar with in our own lives. And so knowing your astrology can help you know what's yours to be responsible for, and it can help you understand that sometimes difficulties are uh, are part of the patterns that you will experience in your life. And knowing that it's not your fault is a very big out when those things happen, so that you don't torture yourself, that you've created your experience in a way that you couldn't possibly have foreseen. So that's what we were responding to yesterday when we said it felt like a time of new beginnings. Okay, so I'm getting the signal it's time for our meditation. So, first of all, we want to say we've so much enjoyed the privilege of being with you today. It's such a great gift, because without your questions and your participation, this would not be happening. So we're completely grateful to you for being here. Thank you so much. So let's take our attention inside. And we'll continue to cultivate our heart-centered awareness. Breathing into the space in the center of your chest. I am in perfect union. Exhaling at your own pace, saying into the space between the exhale and the next inhale, I am in perfect union. I am in perfect union. Continue at your own pace. Thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful for the honor of being with you. Till next week.